28th of February 25, and I see that Suella Braverman done a very interesting post the other day on X, or Twitter, if you want to call it that. February 27th, so it was yesterday. And that reminds me, February, why don't they add one day into February and take one day off March or something, you know? So you would have 29 days in February, apart from leap years. You'd have 30, and then March you would have 30 days, you know? Just something to think about. But anyway, I think this is interesting. Suella's going on about identity. I'm a proud British Asian, and of course, I'm not English. I would say I agree with her being a British Asian, or however she wants to identify. You know, British something else. I would have thought she would have said, well, I don't know actually, because I think she's not Hindu, she's actually Buddhist. I don't know how she identifies in that term. But I would have called it also English Asian, Asian English. I don't know, I'm not sure what way to put it around. I would put it around the other way, Asian English. And I think nowadays the natives of Britain will need to start calling themselves a double-barreled name now, rather than just British. They'll need to be native British, basically. I think the same sort of thing could be sort of happening in transgender. You would have women and cis women, you know. And I think the same's going to happen for identity of Britishness. Everyone had a concept of what a Brit looked like, or what an English person looked like, but to me personally, that's not correct anymore. You know, we're talking 20%, 25%, 30%, and the future majority are not going to be the way that you used to imagine a British look like. So, yeah, we're going to have to use double-barreled names, I think. And for the natives, I think we need to start calling them native British, basically. Um, so here's what Suella's doing. But Suella, well done to Suella for grasping the nettle, and she's also making it more difficult for Keir with his thought police, you know, and up in Scotland with her hate crime, you know, probably up to Suella says that it'd be a sort of thought police thing. But here's Suella saying that she's a respected politician, was a Home Secretary. So this makes it more difficult for Keir and that with their thought police Stasi sort of crackdown. I'm a proud British Asian, and of course I'm not English. I never thought that was contentious. But then I saw the exchange between Fraser Nelson and Constantine Keeson on TriggerPod and realised that too many people are nervous about asserting English identity for what it is, ethnic, racial and based on ancestry. If we can't even agree on who the English are, how on earth are we ever going to defend the culture and values of this country? So she done a post about it and a column about it in the Telegraph. It is quite ironic that politicians use the Telegraph to post uh, things like this because it's a paywall, so the ordinary punter can't read it, you know. I suppose we don't really need to, but I would sort of disagree with her. I still think English is a sort of country, so I think native English need to refer to themselves as a native English now. You can't just say English, because English is all sorts of things now. I mean, Leicester calls itself the first global majority city in the West, maybe in Europe, they said. Uh, that's the future for all of Britain, and we've lost the idea of Britishness, Englishness, Scottishness. So we need to use double-barreled things now. If you're concerned about this, the only thing you can do at the moment is do a protest vote for an Overton window shift, and that's for the reform, basically. Especially if you vote Labour, SNP, Plaid Cymru and all that, because they want the natives to be a minority and it to be basically a third and second world majority sooner than the Tories, you know, and you're talking about 20 years, 10 years, you know, because we just had the Boris waves there over the last 4 or 5 years, and, you know, we're talking about each of those years, 1.2 million people come in from the third world or second world. I think 90% of them were from the third world, apparently, I don't know. But yeah, so well done to Suella, you know. Um, To me, she can call herself Asian English if she wants, or English Asian. I would probably go for identity first and then the nation second. Um, so let's see what people are saying. So people are saying the culture and values of this country. You know, Nicola Sturgeon and Yvette Cooper go on about that, British values or Scottish values, but to me they actually mean native British values or native Scottish values, because they don't include female genital mutilation, honour killing, arranged marriage. All these things are now British traditions now. You know, they weren't, but they are now. So I think the likes of Yvette and that, when they say that, they're being a bit R-word, you know, and they're being a bit white soup, because I don't think they're including. Well, I think they are including the hijab in that. I mean, I heard that Candid Luna saying today in our chat that one of her kids at school, there was a 5-year-old, not her kid, but there was a 5-year-old girl in the full hijab attending. So that girl was British, according to Yvette and Nicola. That's her expressing, freely expressing her girlishness in Britain. That's the way some Britons want to identify, want to express themselves, you know. So, yeah, I am English, but I don't align with culture and values that sailing and keeps our sailing, blah blah. Sort of Labour person, sort of self-mutilation person, or how you could say masochistic or whatever. If you're born in England, you're English. It's not complicated. Well, I don't agree with that, because if I was born in India, would I be Indian? Is Cliff Richard Indian? Is that guy who won the Tour de France? Not the first one, but the second. But is he Kenyan? Is Suella Kenyan? I think her parents. I think Hamza Yousaf's parents came from. Well, they're actually Pakistani heritage, but I think they were from Mauritius or something. Or one was Mauritius, one was Kenya. Does Hamza feel any identity towards those two countries? Does he demand that they recognise his identity to those countries? I don't think so, actually. Uh, so Paul is making a good comment there. So that's really good, because that's broken down another sort of barrier that Labour were putting up. Being English is not just a passport, it's an ancestral lineage. Well, I would say native English, you know. I would say English is, I mean, I don't think of myself as just Scottish now, or at least I would want to say to people overseas, I'm native Scottish, you know. I would want them to know what I identify with. So in case they have, because they personally have probably got conceptions of people's, you know, because there's a lot of people don't seem to want to live in their homeland, and they want to go to ones with very different cultures historically. Uh, Possibly, we don't know if they want to stay in people of colour countries or Muslim countries. We don't know that. You'll need to decide yourself. But Scotland, Britain's totally changed beyond recognition already. And I think in the last census in 2022 or whatever it was in Scotland, 77% in Scotland called themselves white Scottish, so that native Scottish basically, 77%. So you're already 23% in, and that was 2 years ago before 2 or 3 of the Boris waves. So maybe that's down to 70% now or something, you know, native Scottish. Rabbie Burns considered moving to Jamaica to work in the slave trade, so I'm guessing he's top of the statue toppling list, but because they need the SNP marchers and the SNP voters on their side, I'm guessing Rabbie's getting a buy at the moment. For how long, we don't know. I would guess the royal family in a referendum, they'll get voted out as soon as as soon as the global majority has a good enough amount, because they don't need to wait to become a majority. Actually, they just need, because they'll have all the anti-royal ones, native anti-royal ones, 10, 20, 30%. So the king and that, they'll all be booted out. Um, so I think they're all getting themselves in a pickle here. We're talking about native English, I would say. So at least we're having these sort of conversations, because everyone's thinking them. I think this is the sort of I see as the sort of Diane Abbott's way of thinking. She's thinking these things, but she'll probably be, well, I'll not use Diane Abbott I'll use, say, female Labour MPs. They'll be thinking this, but they'll be looking to call the natives the R word. And if they hear a crime story, they're wondering. We're all wondering, but we're not allowed to think anything. Like the Southport killer. We were told he was Welsh. Straight away, I was wondering, well, that doesn't mean he's native Welsh. I think the police felt if we say Welsh, then a Welsh choir boy was it or something. That's a good deflection. They might think that's a boy named Di or something, or Gavin or whatever. Yeah, so this is a great, well done to Suella. There's quite a few sort of real big names in politics now being Emperor's new clothes. Basically, there's Suella, there's Robert Jenrick, Rupert Lowe especially. Um, there's one or two more, just even a year or two ago it would have been pretty hard. Because Suella's only really, over the last 2 years, I would say, she made her speech at CPAC 2 years ago, and Liz Truss as well. I'm talking about big politicians, because apart from that, I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, there was hardly anybody even on YouTube now talking this sort of way. Well done to Elon for buying Twitter, because he freed it up, even though he's taken the blue tick away from some people he disagrees with now on a thing. He took away Laura Limmers because she was going on about that H1 visa. He finally gave it back. So that's what I would say to this question anyway. I would say, well, we need to start referring. There's native English, native British, and there's all the other identities, however they wish to identify. We're all going to have to be double barreled. So there's a lot of masochist Labour, native people who are replying here. I don't agree with that anyway. If you're born somewhere, it means you're early. If I was born in China, I wouldn't be Chinese. If I was born to the same parents. It seems to be a West thing, really. I mean, in Dubai, you don't even get citizenship there. You get just everyone's a temporary worker's really that for life, really. Thank you so much for saying this. Need some sanity in a safe delusion. So it's really good to see so many big MPs. The list just get kicked out and that. It's really good to see those being Emperor's new clothes, really. And it's only in the last 6 months, 1 year, really, it's gone up to that level. Robert Jenrick, when he first started talking about it, a year and a half ago, I think he was a Remainer. Yeah. Both my children were born in Spain. They will never be Spanish. They will always be English. Seriously, why are two grown men even discussing this? Yeah, so that's all I got to say just now. Bye bye.